As BMW celebrates 100 years of building motorcycles, I'd like to give you a little bit of history of me and the BMW motorcycles, or my history with BMW motorcycles. It all started with a relative of mine seeing a sign that said BMW, and outside of the store there were motorcycles, and they couldn't figure that out. BMW makes cars, right? Well, they stopped in and they found indeed BMW made motorcycles. In fact, BMW made motorcycles before they made cars. They brought home a brochure and I looked at it, and then we ended up going to another BMW motorcycle dealer and I tried out the R1100R. And it was a used bike. It had 88,000 miles on it, I believe. It was similar to this bike. This is an R1150R. And the 1100R, instead of having the oil coolers behind this fairing right here, they were set a little lower. And it had a different gearbox on that, a 5-speed gearbox. It had a wire clutch instead of this hydraulic clutch, and some other different things. Of course, cosmetically it looked different, the gas tank was different, but it was basically the same bike. It's a roadster. It's BMW's standard bike. Upright riding position, very comfortable. And so then for some reason we ended up buying a used R1200C, similar to the one sitting right here. This one's gas tank is not actually put on it right now, and some other things are taken apart right now because I'm rebuilding this one. So anyway, we ended up buying a used R1200C, the one in the James Bond movie. It's ivory. It has a pinstripe of blue around on the gas tank and on the fenders. Very nice bike. Hydraulic clutch. At that time, since the R1100R did not have a hydraulic clutch, I loved how the R1200C felt. And I ended up riding that one to work for several weeks until I bought the R1100R, and the R1200C went to my mom. So my mom was riding that. Those were used bikes. And then my sister got a brand new F650 GS. So she was the only one with a new bike at that time. But we all rode together. It was fantastic. I ended up working at one of the shops as a technician, and this bike actually, well, not this particular bike, but this model came in a crate. And here's a piece of a crate, one of the first two that I opened. And I may have uncrated this model when it came in. Not the R1150R exactly, but this one, you know, with the racing stripes, yellow, and the gunmetal blue here, which I believe that BMW called Geld and Ferro. I believe that's right. Ferro meaning metal, Geld is gold. I think that's what it was called. I'm not quite sure. Don't quote me on that. But the moment I saw this bike, I didn't like it. You thought I might have said I really liked it, but I didn't like it. I said, I don't know how we're going to sell this bike. And sure enough, it hung around for weeks and weeks and weeks. And then finally a lady bought it. And I guess it kind of, you would think the canary yellow kind of maybe attracts a female audience. I don't know. Or a person that does off-road. At the time the GS had that color. So the off-road yellow, I don't know. Anyway, whoever, you know, whatever kind of taste you might have, that's the taste you have. So she bought it, and it's kind of funny because when I bought this one, they said a lady had owned it. She always had it serviced by their master mechanic there at that shop that I had worked at years before. And then I bought this, and it may be the same bike I uncrated. That would be really interesting. I didn't really think of it before, but it may be that bike that sat around for weeks, and I just said, man, that thing's not gonna sell. That thing's so ugly. You know, not really ugly, but it's just not what I felt like BMW riders were looking for at that time. as things progressed, I ended up at another shop. So when I went to the other shop, the Rockster had come out maybe a year later after I had been there for a while. And people often think this is a Rockster, but it's got the traditional motorcycle headlight. And this one has a 6-speed gearbox like the Rockster. So that may have been why people thought it was the Rockster, other than the stripes, of course. But this bike may have been the first R1150R that had a 6-speed gearbox, or one of the first, because it was not common. It was usually a 5-speed at that time. And then when the Rockster came out, it was very common for the R1150s to have the 6-speed gearbox. For instance, when I bought the demo bike, Rockster, at that dealership, there was another guy that had just bought a red R1150R, and he was asking me questions about it, and my boss was saying, those are totally different bikes. His has a 5-speed gearbox, yours has a 6-speed gearbox. They're just a little different in the way that they feel. So anyway, yeah, I bought the Rockster. Basically, the moment I saw it, I actually liked the green one, and I ended up with the citrus, or the orange copper one that was in the movie Paycheck. And I'm kind of glad that I went with that one. That was the one they had as their demo bike. In overcast weather or in rain, the green just doesn't look that great. In sunshine, it looked fantastic. It had sparkles in it and everything. The copper one looked basically like orange and black basically all the time, and then sometimes it looked like copper and black. So I was very pleased with that bike. And then years and years later, I didn't have bikes for a while, and then I got this one very cheaply because it had a lot of miles on it. My first bike had 88,000 miles on it. The R1100R that I bought had 88,000 miles on it. So when this came along and it had, I think, 55,000 on it, I was not, I didn't blink an eye, especially at the price that I got it at. And then we got this R1200C here. Very reasonable price, but I've had to put a lot of stuff in there. I put the stainless steel brake lines on there, put some quick disconnects for the gas tank, and all kinds of stuff. And I broke the Euro motor lights. This is the Euro model of the R1200C, and the light didn't have a gasket when I got it or something, and it ended up unscrewing and throwing itself off the road, and I could never find it. And so I just said, well, I'm not going to have just a light bulb just sticking out there all ugly, so I just took the whole thing off, and then I put these things that I got from eBay or something on there. They look similar to the Euro lights. But anyway, that's my history with BMW motorcycles. Happy 100 years.